we need to initialize our Terraform code and then validate it to make sure everything is set up correctly. For that, open this folder in the terminal. If you're using VS Code editor, you can achieve that by right-clicking on the folder, or right-clicking right here on the left, and clicking on Open in Integrated Terminal. If you can't do this, you can just go to the menu at the top, click on Terminal, and then click New Terminal, then navigate to this folder right here. You can also do the same from your command line program. Open your command line program, then navigate to where you created your folder for this project, where we have the main.tf. The first thing you need to do is export the correct Terraform profile. Remember, I used this one as my profile name. Make sure you use your own name right here under the value. Once we have exported the correct profile, we can check it by running AWS sts get caller identity to confirm that it's the correct user. You can see this is the user. Once you've confirmed your user, we will format our files by running Terraform format, then using this wildcard to capture every file and every subfolder. Once we format, we'll then validate. So before we validate, we need to initialize our modules. So we'll run Terraform init. Take a little while the provider plugins are being initialized. If everything works correctly, and then you'll see this message. Once you initialize your setup, we need to validate that everything is set up correctly. First of all, let's clear our screen, and then we'll run Terraform validate. This one will check your configuration and show you anything that you've missed. It's usually important to run this command before you run apply. Then we can start with the first error. You can see the resource we passed for the availability zone is complaining that it doesn't have an attribute called names. So we need to verify that. And when we open the main.tf file where we have the VPC module, it is showing you its main.tf line 8. So let's go to line 8 right here. You'll notice we are using a wrong resource. So in our data resource, we are supposed to use zones. So let's just fix that. Here we are supposed to use the plural resource, not the singular resource. And then we can update the same here so that we get the zones and not a single zone. So that's for the first error. The second error shows the same. So we have this error for the first one, and then the second error for the second value. Then we have line 17. It's complaining that the given value is not suitable for the module. Private subnet tags that are declared in this VPC module, it requires a map of strings. Let's go and see line 17. Under line 17, you can see the error we made. So instead of passing tags, we passed the subnets themselves, which is a list of strings. And this one is a map like this. And the second last error is about the outputs.tf. It's complaining about the resource named this way doesn't exist. So let's go to outputs.tf line 15, and we just check if we are using the correct name for the role. This role is created in the main.tf as the last resource we did. So remember, we changed this name, so we need to update the role name right here so that it can be referenced correctly like this. The same for the last error. It's complaining about the role on line 16, and also the first one was for line 15. Once you fix, you need to run validate again to make sure you've covered all the errors. We are still getting another error. So this is just a spelling error. When you come back to the VPC module, we skipped a single letter here, and validate again. And you'll notice we are getting an additional error inside now the child module, forget profile. So you can control or command click this line, then it will open for you the main.tf file in this module. Or you can just go to the module and open the file yourself and then navigate to line number 9, which is here. So it's complaining that we are missing resource instance key. It's saying that this resource is created by count and it must be accessed on a specific instance. So when we check our resource under the data.resource within this submodule, you'll notice that it's created conditionally. So we have to access it using the array notation or the list notation. After the resource name, we need to add the count or the index of the resource that we are accessing. So fix that error and validate again. You might get different errors depending on the way you configured your setup. So this is the validate I ran. We have an error under the Fargate cluster outputs line 2. So go to the Fargate cluster, then open outputs, then go to line 2. Actually, we are also accessing the wrong resource. You can see from the error, we're trying to get the cluster name from an add-on, which is wrong. So we need to change this to cluster, the same to the one down here. And then when we check our cluster, it's created right here, and it doesn't have for each account, so that should fix the first error. Then the second error is on line 8 of the outputs.tf, the Fargate cluster module. When you open the file, we can fix this quickly. You can see we had some typos here. So make sure for these outputs that are referencing the cluster, you use the correct resource the way I've done here. So the next error also was related to the certificate authority. I just corrected that. Then we have the last one, this one that I corrected last. So let's run validate again to see if we get an additional error. Now we are getting one error. So this one is in the output line 2, and it's complaining that there is no output with this name we used. So let's check. We are supposed to use name and not cluster name as shown here. Let's run again, validate to see if it has fixed. And once you fix all the errors, validate should return success. This means you are ready to now run your setup. Before we run our setup, there are a few things we need to prepare. We need to prepare the sample applications. We can do that next.